And he said to him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city for which thou hast spoken. Hast thee escaped thither? Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither. Therefore the name of the city shall call Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered to Zoar. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from Xavier out of heaven. And he threw those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham gave up early in the morning to the place where he stood before Xavier. And Abba heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of Abba of God called to Hagar out of heaven, and said to her, What aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the bottle with water, and gave the lad drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran. And his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. And it came to pass at the time of Apimelech and Phichol, this chief captain of his host, spake to Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all that thou doest. Now therefore swear to me here by God that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son, but according to the kindness that I have done to thee, thou shalt do to me, and to the land wherein thou hast sojourned. Chapter 22, and going forward. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham, and said to him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee to the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and saddled his ass, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood of the burnt offering, and rose up and went to the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said to his young men, Abide here with the ass. And I went and laid, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering, and laid it upon Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand, and a knife, and then went both of them together. And Isaac spake to Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. And he said, Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place which God had told him of. And Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid on him the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord, Xavier, called to him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am, here am I. And he said, Lay not thine hand upon that lad, neither do thou anything to him, for now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah Jireh, as it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. And the angel of Xavier called to Abraham out of heaven a second time, and said, By myself has I sworn, said Xavier, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba. And Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. And it came to pass after these things, that it was told Abraham, saying, Behold, Milcah, she hath also borne children to thy brother Nahor, who's his firstborn, and Boaz his brother, and Kemuel the father of Aram, and Chesed, and Harzo, and Pildas, and Jileph, and Bethuel. And Bethuel begat Rebekah. These 8 Milcah did bear in Noah, Abraham's brother, and his concubine, whose name was Remah. She bare also Tebah, and Gaham, and Tahash, and Makah.